If you're a facilities manager at a warehouse and your HVAC system goes down, it can turn up the heat, literally. But don't sweat it, Grainger has you covered. Grainger offers over 1 million industrial-grade products for all your operations, including warehouse HVAC maintenance. And even better, they offer access to experts and fast delivery, so you and your warehouse can both keep your cool. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are the things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
What's up, champs? Welcome to another episode of the Short Shifts Fantasy Hockey Podcast, brought to you by Keeping Karlsson. I'm Louis Ezekiel, your co-host here tonight. Joining me, my pal and yours, Elizabeth. Here for your third show. How you feeling? How are you doing on this fine Tuesday evening?
I'm feeling pretty good. You know, I'm getting used to the hang of things here, hanging out with you. It's forcing me to study, which I'm loving. It's definitely helping my streaming content. I'm way more on the game than I ever was before. So if anybody needs advice, it's pretend you're on a podcast and then you'll study.
Outstanding. Glad to hear it. Yeah, and you'll still make, the wrong decision half the time probably, but
probably.
You'll feel more, you'll have the data to back up your choices, I think. That's really what it's all about here. All we can do is tell people what we think based on, what we see in the numbers there, or occasionally what we feel in our hearts, which is, how I'm feeling about Ovi in the don't trade Ovi argument. All right. Well, like Parker Kelly blocking 5 shots in one shift on Tuesday, we are here to make a big impact in a short period of time. So, Elizabeth, without any further ado, let's jump right into the show here. We're going to start with some headlines. We will cover some injuries and oucheries and finish with some cold streaks, some colder than others. But yeah, let's jump right into it here. And I want to start in Colorado, where Alexander Georgiev has had 3 straight starts. We have seen the 3-headed goalie monster in Colorado drop back down to 2. Kaapo Kähkönen was claimed by Winnipeg, so it is Georgiev and Annunen, and that is it, the battle here. And just to sort of compare their last 3 starts, they have identical win-loss records, 2-1 each of them. Annunen has 63 saves on 70 shots for an .863 save percentage and minus 2.7 goals saved above average. Georgiev has 83 saves on 90 shots in those 3 games for a .922 save percentage and 2.0 goals saved above average. Now, granted, those 2 wins were his only positive goals saved above average games of the season, so we're not going crazy here. We're still talking about a Georgiev who just has had, an apocalyptic beginning to the season. But, Colorado is getting healthy. They want Georgiev to be the starting goalie. Clearly, Bednar wants Georgiev to be the starter. We have Jonathan Drouin and Miles Wood, both who could be back soon. Bednar says he's waiting on word from the trainers. I went ahead and picked him up. I was someone who drafted Sam Montembeault. I now feel like I have, with a week in between, more or less exchanged Montembeault to get Georgiev since he was dropped in my division. What do you think? Did I make a good move here, or am I setting myself up for heartache?
I think if we're talking starts, you've definitely made a good move. It does look like it is going to be Georgiev's net. I really like Annunen for a back-to-back, especially as you mentioned, the team gets healthier. But will you be super happy about this long term? It's hard to say. Colorado they're a good team. Nobody was sitting back going, oh, Colorado, they're not so good. We were all sitting back going, oh no, when they're healthy, they're still going to be good. So there's a lot there to work with. I think he could have a good time for you. I just don't know that I would put all my pennies in that kind of jar and go with it. I'd watch him. I'd see what happens. a Noonan's right there, and he's just as good.
Yeah, obviously a little more struggle lately, but yeah, I think you're right. Certainly, in terms of capability, I think they both are capable of taking the lead here. I think that they're probably going to stick with the hot hand, and also clearly there's a coach's preference, so that's what sort of makes me pleased with it. He probably won't start as many as Montembeault if we're comparing, but, Elon was saying, why do you want a goalie who starts every game if he's going to allow 4 goals every game? So I can't argue with that logic. That's why I got out of that mess while I could. I still have Leferrier, Elon. So, I was able to have the best of both sides of your trade. And I also was able to excise the problem on the other one.
I should have warned you, I've been anti-goalie this time around this year. So every time we talk goalies, I'm probably going to be a little leery. I've been anti-goalie this year.
And I think that makes a ton of sense. I went in with the expectation that I would feel that way. I got all, Twitter pated with the huge shutout that Montembeault had in that first game. But obviously everything since then has been wretched. I do want to carry 2 on my roster. And if I have the chance to have one of them be, a guy who's going to start 2/3 of the game for Colorado, I feel decent about that if he's not going to be just totally stinking up the place. And it does seem like he's gotten his head on straight a little bit there. A place where no one seems to have their head on straight right now. Take us over to Pittsburgh, Elizabeth. What the heck is going on with our Penguins and their timeless stars? Maybe that time is starting to catch up with them.
Our Penguins are hurting, and especially in those goalie areas that we were just talking about goalies. I mean, Jarry's back from his conditioning stint, but it sounds like they're going to be carrying 3 goalies. So we've got Jarry, we've got Nedeljkovic, we've got Blomqvist, and I just don't know who you'd want to take out of that bunch personally, because they're all kind of low right now. Jarry went down. When he went down, he was at .836. Last year, he finished with a .909 save percentage. Nedeljkovic's currently sitting at a .882. Blomqvist is currently at a .904. I just don't know that any of these guys really intrigue me. And I was a Jarry drafter, okay? I drafted him. I will admit it. I have no regrets in dropping him. I still have him on my watch list. I am hoping for the best. I want him to come back really strong. I just don't know what's going on over there. And I think it's going to be a blender for a little bit until somebody breaks out. Hopefully that can be Jarry, because the conditioning stint went really well for him. He went 4-1-0 with a 2.16 goals against average and a .926 save percentage. So things were looking really good for him down there. Hopefully he brings that with him. But we'll see. How do you feel about those Penguins goalies?
Yeah, a little bit of confidence injection for Jarry down in the minors. So here's a bit of my concern. Now, Brian did talk about how the defense is starting to get back to decent. Of course, they went ahead and got just absolutely crushed by the Dallas Stars on Monday, which did not help any of those arguments. But, the Stars bouncing back from a bad loss, hurt pride, saw a chance to take it out on someone, I suppose. I certainly would take Georgiev over Jarry just because of the team in front of him. But actually, I have been in the short shifts chat kind of talking with Elon about the possibility of adding Jarry. And I don't hate the option. He's certainly a guy who's going to have plenty of shots against him if he can, if he has his confidence back from that stint, and if he can start to put together, some games where he, is at a 900 save percentage or above. That's going to be decent fantasy points. Maybe not the rate stats you necessarily want to see if you're in a categories league, but I think that's quality. And Shams, who has won a ton of fantasy games, always talks about he really likes volume goalies for teams that allow a lot of shots. That is certainly the Penguins right now. I don't have the flexibility on my roster to toss a Jarry on there as well, but I imagine someone in the division will, and I'm curious to see how that turns out, honestly, for them. I like Jarry. I think he has the ability to do it. I don't know if he can necessarily put it together in Pittsburgh. I wonder a little bit if maybe a change of scenery is what he needs, but I feel like that contract is going to be tough to move until his play improves.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's scenery or if it's the confidence boost will do it, but I too really like Jarry. I like watching him. I like the play. So I'm hoping that all goes well there. I'm really hoping that the people in my league just want to like let him play a few games so I too can see what happens and I don't have to grab him before his first game. But if you're in a league that's super competitive, you might not get that option. And then I would say, yeah, maybe take him and see what happens. I mean, we know what the worst can look like and we know what the best can look like. But there was one shining star in yesterday's Pittsburgh game. You already talked about how they played Dallas Stars. So let's move right on over there and talk about Mason Marchment because he got 1 goal and 4 assists. He's spending lots of time up with Sagan and Duchesne on the second line, second power play. Things were looking really good for him. So unfortunately for the Penguins, he really came through.
Yeah, I think you nailed it there. It's been, I was a little worried about that second line just because we had that news that Sagan is, at least going to struggle with back-to-backs with that lower body injury that supposedly he's going to be carrying through the rest of the season. But yeah, Marchment just outstanding. I think he got all 5 of those points in the first period. I think there were some, the Twitter was talking about various records set and that sort of thing. So just really cool stuff. A really nice schedule finally for Dallas, who has not had much of a nice schedule for the last few weeks. Monday, Wednesday against Anaheim and San Jose. So if you are, winning your match by a lot, or if your match, if your chances of victory are receding into the horizon, and you got a move left, think about adding Marchment to your roster for that nice Monday, Wednesday set against those weak Cali teams. That could be a really nice outcome for you early on.
Absolutely.
All right, let's talk about another guy here. So if Marchment was playing his way into the hearts of his fantasy owners, this guy was kind of in the doghouse because he was in John Tortorella's doghouse. We got to talk about Matvei Michkov here, out of the doghouse and onto the box score. He was allowed back into the lineup by Torts and responded with a 2-point night, including a nice one-touch pass to set up a Konechny goal on the power play. He also had a breakaway goal at even strength. I was losing it a little bit because I only won my match last week by 0.4. And there was, on the Thursday, I could swap someone else in for Michkov. That was no problem. But Saturday, I had a perfectly set lineup. Everybody fit. I had every slot full. So when he got sent to the press box, I didn't have anybody to fill in. And I was just imagining what it would be like if my opponent got one more block and I lost by 0.1. And Torts had wrecked my week there. Anyway, the one thing I am concerned about is that Michkov did take a very stupid roughing penalty right at the end of the game, punching Macklin Celebrini in the face several times right before overtime. So the Flyers did have to kill a penalty before winning in the shootout. I was thinking that if they score on this power play, Michkov might be, back out of the lineup as fast as he got back in, no matter how many times he scores. But really, hopefully those doghouse days are over. Michkov's ownership was still dropping as of this morning. And while he is line 3, he is on power play 1, and he's clearly an important power play player for Philadelphia. He leads the Flyers with 8 power play points in 14 games. Last year, Morgan Frost led the team through the whole season with 11 power play points. So I think Michkov is going to be, one of the straws that stirs the drink here. As long as he can stay on Torts' good side, be responsible, not punch potential rookie of the year rivals in the face at the end of a game.
You say potentially not. I would probably say definitely not, especially on your first game back after being, hanging out in the press box for a game. Now, there's a lot going on there, right? Like, we don't really know 100%. Nobody does except for the people involved why he was pulled out of those games. But I like to think that you learn a lesson when you sit out and you come back with a fire, and that's all that was. And the punches thrown were just part of that. He was really just that adrenaline rush. He was excited, and we're just going to get back to good old fashion scoring hockey for him. I agree with you. I don't know why people are dropping him right now. Especially after the sitting, like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, if you dropped him when he first sat, okay, but when he's coming back, like, give the guy a shot, guys.
Yeah, especially with a night to digest and a morning to start, potentially picking up there. So yeah, if he's floating around out there in your non-cupful league, I would think about grabbing him because, even from that third line, he's capable of doing damage. We had another player who was getting some attention, had a lot of eyes on him in that Sharks Flyers game. Tell us a little bit about Emil Andre.
Yes, Andre, also known for throwing a few punches. If you are a Boston fan, you would have seen that a few weeks ago. So definitely we're getting into a little bit more bangers here, but he saw the second most defensive minutes in that Sharks Flyers game, which is really interesting. He's seeing time on the special teams. So we do have to ask ourselves that question, is he someone to watch, and start looking at his numbers? And his numbers are good. They're okay. If you're in a bangers league, though, I will say his numbers look a lot better. You're looking at 1.5 hits, 1 block on average over the last few weeks here, about a shot and a half a game, just depending on the game and who they're playing. So it is something really interesting to watch because I think a lot of people would have thought he might go back down when Cam York comes back. He's not back yet. However, I do think now there is a question about that. Like, he's really proving himself. And even Tortorella said he played good. He played some big minutes against their top line. He seems to be really impressed by him. So, I mean, those are all good signs that he could be around for a while. And then if we want to do a little bit of comparison, because I do play in one banger league because we got to spice it up a little, guys. I did take a look at a couple of my bigger guys on my team, like John Carlson and Rasmus Anderson. He's not quite getting those numbers, so I wouldn't be replacing those types of guys on your team. But if you've got and I'm going to butcher this, even though I looked it up, Uvis Balniskis from Florida, and I'm sure I butchered that. I apologize. I did look it up. But if you rostered him and you need banger categories, you might want to look at shifting. They're pretty similar, but I just think that you might get a little bit more from Andre. Just knowing that he's getting that time and that look, it's just a little bit more exciting to me. And then strangely, I noticed that his partner, Travis Sanheim's only rostered in about 40% of Yahoo leagues. Now, he is 90% taken in the cupful. He's not really necessarily a full bangers player, but I did want to look at that and just kind of see. So what are your thoughts on this? Are you jumping? Are you excited at all? I know the Flyers have been a little iffy lately.
Yeah, so, I've been more than happy to roster just 3 defensemen through a lot of the season. I am carrying 4 right now to get the most out of my available opportunities here this week. I am carrying Sanheim and I've carried him most of the season. I appreciate a defenseman that gives me a good floor. I did not draft many defensemen, and my second one, Doughty, went out with an injury in his first game in the preseason, so I've been struggling a little bit. Oh yeah, I have Sean Dursey too, so really just crushing it in terms of picking up defensemen who got ground up into hamburger meat early in the season. I'm interested in Emil Andre. I'm not ready to say that it's time to go out and grab him. I do like that he's providing some banger stats. He's not just going to give you empty calories when he doesn't score like an Adam Boqvist. So I appreciate that side of it. Cam York even is kind of the empty calories guy when he's not scoring with Philadelphia. So if he can hold that spot, I think it's going to be interesting. Certainly he was getting some praise. So if you want to get ahead of the crowd and grab him, while he's still available and see if he sticks, it's a little more of a gamble. For me, I've only got 1 move left this week already, so I think I'm going to be someone who is really going to take my time before I make that 1 extra move. So I don't think Emil Andre is on the menu here, but someone I definitely am keeping an eye on moving ahead, because that could potentially be a nice spot. Their power play has struggled a bit, but seemed to get on track some last night. That Michkov pass to Konechny and the shot just were really nice to see, and hopefully they can keep doing that. Another team that has struggled a bit on the power play, but has been quite interesting nonetheless. I just wanted to make a note. The Mega Show was talking about Washington goalies. They mentioned that Thompson was outplaying Lindgren, and they wanted to, we're talking back and forth about how long is this alternating goalie situation going to continue. Just kind of interesting. Carberry hinted that the alternating starts might come to an end. He gave a pretty vague, we'll see if that alternating continues as an answer to a question. But right now, Thompson clearly has been outplaying Lindgren. So I think that, if the team wants to put themselves in the best possible playoff position, you got to go with the guy who is playing well. So some hope for those Thompson owners that they might start to see closer to a 2/3 share instead of that half and half split. I'm also pretty interested in Lars Eller being added from Pittsburgh for picks. That feels like a playoffs move for a team that is winning and wants to keep winning. I think he's going to slot right into that third center role. I think that's going to be a really nice spot for him. He can eat up some defensive minutes. That'll be nice for Thompson or Lindgren when he plays. That'll be nice for some of those unnamed older caps who maybe don't move so quick and don't especially want to play a bunch of defense. I may have one of them on my roster. So I think that's a great move. And I think that's actually going to be a nice benefit for the goalies overall, too, to have a guy like Eller on the team. Any thoughts on Washington goalies before we head into a quick break?
I think you've pretty much captured it. But yeah, it is a bit of an older team. So you want a really good goalie back there just in case somebody starts to slow down. So I think that captures it pretty nicely.
Yeah, it helps you play with confidence, too, when your goalie is playing well. I think that's been part of the problem in Pittsburgh, is if they're worried that, they got a rickety situation back there. They play tight. What do they say? You're gripping the stick, right? And they're too worried about what might happen instead of just playing the game. All right, we're going to head into a quick break here. Back on the other side with some injuries, oucheries, and a couple cold streaks. You're listening to Short Shifts.
Elon here. I love this time of year. I'm always looking to see what are the best headphone deals I can get. I'm obsessed with podcasts. Of course, that means I'm obsessed with headphones. So I'm always looking, what's going on with Black Friday, Cyber Monday? Are there any amazing deals for me? You know what? With Raycon, it doesn't matter what time of year it is because you get an amazing deal on premium audio every day of the year. But that doesn't mean they're not having any sales for Black Friday or Cyber Monday. Far from it. They're actually doubling down on their amazing value by offering listeners of Keeping Karlsson up to 30% off site-wide. You got to check out Raycon. They've got this active noise cancellation, really handy if you're at work listening to music or you're walking down the street. Let's say you listen to a podcast where the audio isn't so perfect, they're a little bit quiet. It comes in handy, trust me, to have that active noise cancellation. I want to be able to make sure I hear all of my content. Also, the Raycons feature 32-hour battery life and multi-point connectivity that lets you pair with two devices at once. And guess what? Here's the thing. Raycon's quality rivals some of the biggest names in premium audio, but the Raycons start at just half the price as the other guys. So they're already an incredible deal even before you factor in their Black Friday or Cyber Monday offer of up to 30% off site-wide. Raycon's everyday earbuds are also available in a variety of vibrant colors, so you don't have to just have the standard issue white or black earbuds sticking out of your ears. I personally got the purple. I had the option. Blue also looks really nice. Anyways, you know what colors are. You choose whatever one that's good for you. And guess what? Now's the perfect time to scoop them up if you haven't already. And don't worry, if you're not as impressed as I am, Raycon offers a 30-day happiness guarantee, so you really can't lose. It's time to save big for Black Friday or Cyber Monday. Go to buyraycon.com/THPN today to get up to 30% off site-wide. That's right, you'll get up to 30% off everything on Raycon's website when you go to buyraycon.com/THPN. If you haven't guessed, I like watching hockey. And hey, watching hockey on TV, that's pretty good. Watching hockey live, oh man, nothing beats it. And of course, you got to get those tickets to go to those games. And that's where our friends over at Game Time come in. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I decided to take a look at what our West Coast friends have in terms of options to go see a Canucks game. Man, I'm seeing a beauty over on November 16th, Saturday. The Blackhawks are in town to play the Canucks. You can see Connor Bedard in the flesh, and it's really great. When you go to Game Time, you can see the cheapest price. I'm seeing $94 for a Section 313 row 15 ticket. You can also see what are the good deals. They'll filter it out for you. So they have a $210 ticket. That's just a really good deal. Super lower bowl, center, pretty much the best you can see. And by the way, I can see a view using the app of what you'll see from the tickets. You know exactly what you're getting. Game Time Picks shows you only the best values on tickets, last minute deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it starts. Also, there's exclusive flash deals and sponsored deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, whatever. There's also zone deals where you pick the section and Game Time picks the seats for big savings. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code THPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code THPN for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time! The quest for the Stanley Cup has begun. The puck's dropped on the 24-25 season. Get in on all the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. It's super easy for first-timers to get started. Try betting on something simple, like picking a team to win. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook app, select your team, and place your first bet. You know me, I like looking at the futures. Let's take a look at the Stanley Cup odds here. Winnipeg Jets, at the time I'm recording this, they're the top team in the league, getting no respect from the odds makers. I'm seeing Florida, Edmonton, Carolina, Dallas, the Rangers, the Leafs, Colorado, Devils, all with better odds to win than the Jets. So if you disagree, that's something you can take a look at. And hey, if you're new to DraftKings, listen up. New customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ice.
Welcome back to Short Shifts. Elizabeth, we might have buried the lead here a little bit because the first game of the week, which came nice and early on a Veterans Day Monday, had some real fireworks to it, but unfortunately it also came with some injury news. So that 7-5 victory by the Habs over the Buffalo Sabres came along with Tage Thompson taking a lower body injury. It's not super clear what exactly happened. He did play a shift in the second period, got into an awkward collision with Alex Tuch and David Savard. That was kind of the most noticeable event of the shift. He finished and skated off, so it wasn't like he headed right for the bench, but he did not return. We don't know a whole lot yet. Basically, Ruff has just said, we're waiting to kind of get updates on these guys. But the main beneficiaries so far seem to be Alex Tuch on the power play and Dylan Cousins at even strength, who stepped into Thompson's spots there. Cousins and Tuch both had 2 points in the game. Cousins a goal and an assist, Tuch with 2 assists. They're both now line one, power play one. You're not going to find Alex Tuch many places, but while Cousins is rostered in 98% of the Keeping Karlsson Ultimate Patron Fantasy League, he's only 23% rostered on Yahoo. So I would run out and grab that guy. I think he's being put in a nice position here. He's taking a lot of shots on the season, which I always like to see. So I think Cousins could be in for a good opportunity for as long as Tage Thompson is going to be out. And of course, people in the Cupful seem to think that he has value even, before he was moving into that position. So a guy who might be worth taking a look at.
Absolutely. Like Dylan Cousins was just not long ago, people were dropping him. But I think that there's a lot of managers out there, myself included, who are really happy that we held on to him because he is starting to turn it around. And with this extra deployment, that's good news. You don't want to be sitting on a guy who you're just hoping will get better. It's nice to see someone who's actually kind of getting better and getting that deployment. Tuch's also really interesting. We always say, guys on the power play, they're people you want to be looking at. You want to see who's moving up and down the line. So if he is available to you, which, again, doubtful, knowing those numbers, definitely someone to take a look at.
All right. Next up, why don't you take us through, we had an injury in the Canes game. Also a Canes game that saw a ton of depth scoring. So there might be some interesting folks out there on the wire. There are 3 more games for the Canes this week. So what's going on down in Carolina?
Yes, Seth Jarvis is out with a day-to-day upper body injury. We don't have a lot of details on that injury, but we do know that last year he was playing through a shoulder injury. So we don't know if it's something related to that or not. We don't want to speculate because you and I, unfortunately, not doctors on the team. So we'll just say for now that he is likely going to be out at least for a little bit. And then, like you said, those Canes really showing their depth and showing up. They're proving why they have been a powerhouse for a few years, really kicking butt. And we've got Jordan Martinook and Jordan Stahl showing up on the third line. That's wild. But more interesting to start this conversation, we've got Eric Robinson, who is on the second line playing with Natchez and Koknemi. He got 4 shots, 1 goal, 1 assist on Monday night. That's wonderful. If you happened to be somebody who grabbed him, and we do know that somebody did grab him in the Cupful. So that was exciting for them, I'm sure. He's already actually matched his point totals for his last season. He played 40 games last year with Buffalo, got 9 points. And he's already matched that, and he's doubled his goals. So definitely interesting, especially while he's playing up there. And like I said, we've got those third line guys really coming through with Martinook, Stahl, and William Carrier's getting a chance to play up there right now with Jarvis out. So guys you want to look at. Martinook's on a 4-game goal streak. He's got 2 goals and an assist against Colorado, which was really good. And then Stahl's averaging about a shot a game, but he also has a goal and 3 assists in his last 3 games. So he's definitely got the guy who's doing the passing there, but those are points. We count those too. And they're playing this week, they're playing Utah, and then they've got a back-to-back on the weekend with Ottawa and St. Louis. So while we wait for news on Jarvis, are you interested in any of these guys? Because that schedule to me makes them interesting.
Definitely. There is some softness to that schedule. I love to see the depth scoring because my opponent this week has Aho and Svechnikov. So if the guys in the middle of the lineup want to take over and do all the scoring for me, I think that would be great. I don't know about Eric Robinson. I think that was exciting to see him out there. I don't know if I'm necessarily sold on him yet. I kind of like Jesperi Kotkaniemi while he's lined up with Necas. That line was just outstanding. They had 10 shots for and only 3 shots against. That wasn't just, because they were blocking all the shots, because they also controlled the shot attempts 14-4. So they played really, really well. Martinook, I think, is interesting because he's also on that goal streak, although his line got caved in a little bit there, just 3 shots for and 12 shots against. So pretty lucky to get a goal when they were out there. So of that whole list, I think Kotkaniemi stands out to me as the guy who I would probably be most interested in. He's pretty boring a lot of the time, but he took 6 shots last game and had a goal and an assist. So that kind of stood out to me as pretty interesting. He's got Necas on his line, at least for now. And then, Robinson to kind of give that, fresh energy of a guy getting an opportunity. Also, maybe worth noting, didn't figure into the scoring, but Jackson Blake got 4 minutes and 44 seconds on the top power play. So that could also be an interesting guy to kind of keep an eye on. Nothing all that exciting yet. I'm sure he is mostly deferring to his other more experienced teammates, and he is on a cold streak with no points in the last 3 games. But hey, if he sticks on that top power play, that could be an interesting opportunity. It may have just been, him subbing in that moment. So don't necessarily read too much into it without checking game day lines. All right. Another injury that we got to talk about, Brock Boeser remains day to day from that hit to the head that he took from Tanner Jeannot. Tage gave us a bit of an update. He said there's nothing really to report. You're hoping he's gaining 3 to 4% every day. That's the way you have to look at these things. The immediate beneficiary is Suter, who is elevated to line 1B or line 2, depending on how you look at it. That would be Suter with JT Miller and Lekaramaki, who is making his debut. And he's out there on power play 1 as well. Pius Suter is not the most exciting person ever. They talked about him on the Mega Show a little bit. And you imagine that position is going to be gone as soon as Boeser is back, but it's hard to say exactly when that will be. A day-to-day with a concussion can turn into week-to-week with a concussion, as that quote suggests. So I took that bet, but I'm definitely ready to drop Suter once Boeser returns. A little bit of insight from Coltrane, a patron who has Abbotsford Canucks season tickets. He says Lekaramaki has a high IQ, great skating, and has an elite shot. Will this translate immediately this week? Maybe. He could also run on adrenaline tonight and level out. In a dynasty, I'm thinking to be a nice pickup for the week-long stream, and honestly, it could go either way. But yeah, cool that he's getting a shot here. JT Miller is no slouch to line up with, so maybe there'll be some fireworks here.
Absolutely. And I just got to shout out our patrons, because that's the insight that you get when you're a patron. I feel like I'm Elon and Bride now, but you do get all that nice insight from everybody else talking about these players, especially if you maybe don't know them because you're watching other games. And it's really nice to have that. But like you said, we're looking at the guys who are going to get those minutes, who are going to be playing. So you're still going to want to watch those lines, see who's getting that time, and watching to see when Boeser might be coming back. And he is out for we don't know how long. There was a cute little mix-up today when Tage said that he was going to be out, and the status updates would be day-to-day, and it was interpreted as he was day-to-day. So we will just have to wait and see. Like you said, head injuries, we just don't know the answer to.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. One more kind of injury item to talk about here. Taves came up on the Thursday, keeping Karlsson short shifts as a cold player. I can't remember if he was included in the cold defenseman that the Mega Show discussed. But what's going on with Taves? Do we have some hope with his recent scoring here?
I know a lot of people do have hope. But he had one goal on one shot, but he blocked 5 shots on Monday. So it really just depends what you're looking for to get out of him. Coach Bednar really seems to feel a lot better about him than I do. He said that Tage at 80% is still better than lots of other players in the league, which is a really nice compliment, if you will, but it also doesn't really instill a lot of confidence that he's super healthy. And he has said before that he hasn't felt healthy this season. So there is some concerns there for me on which way that's going to go. He has had a little bit of a slow start this season, 4 points in 12 games, I think is the numbers there. And it's just not really winning me over personally.
Sure. And, I think at times Taves, has really been successful in the fantasy game, but a lot of times because of that defensive depth they have in Colorado, he comes off as kind of one of those better in real life than in fantasy types of guys. Certainly as someone who has Georgiev on my roster now, I hope that he starts feeling better soon so that he can be a good real life player for the team, even if, hopefully he's creeping up above 80% here moving forward. All right, a couple of cold players to talk about, or one heated back up today. I'll let you cover that one. But I want to talk about Jonathan Marchessault a little bit. He's just been an interesting topic of conversation. Obviously, he was one of the big moves that Nashville made this year to try to turn themselves into a contender. That has been a bit of a struggle. So I'm trying to figure out, is this guy snake bit or is he just playing poorly? Is this something that he can recover from or should I be looking to get rid of him? So on the snake bit side, he's got a low shooting percentage. His on ice shooting percentage is low. His PDO is low. He's still getting good high danger chances in terms of high danger chances per 60 minutes. And his time on ice is nearly the same as it was last year in Vegas. The thing that is worrying me is this low point total is coming with a pretty average points participation rate for his career. His individual expected goals is not much better than the 3 goals that he's gotten. He's been expected to get 3.8 and he's got 3. So that seems, right in line. And his goals per 60 is just over a third of what he accomplished last season, while his assist rates have been steady. So this drop in nearly 1 point per 60 minutes is almost entirely from goals. Also, I don't know if this matters necessarily, but he's also tied for the worst penalty rate of his career. So maybe there's some frustration creeping through. I do think this is a guy who can rebound somewhat. The individual shooting percentage should improve. The on ice shooting should regress a little bit. So he should find his way into a couple more goals and assists. But it just seems like that the chances that he's getting, the spots on the ice that he's shooting from, aren't as good in Nashville as they were in Vegas. I think owners are probably hoping maybe that's just partially a comfort level thing and it'll get better as the season goes on. But it hasn't turned out as well, I think, as people had hoped. And for the draft value that we got from Marchessault, the shots are nice, but the rest of it still hasn't really come along. And certainly would be worrisome if he finds himself off of that top power play. Then you're really getting into the danger zone. He's already separated from Stamkos quite frequently, and his line mates have not been awesome the last couple games. So a little bit nervous about Marchessault here.
It wasn't long ago that you and I were actually talking about the entire Nashville top 6. So it's not surprising to me that they didn't all just overnight get better. But I do think, like you said, there is some room for improvement here. I do think it'll come around. As long as the shots are still coming in, I would be willing to hold on to him or even see what might be out there in the form of a trade, because there is, I imagine a lot of people who do think he will heat up, that Nashville just needs time to kind of figure things out. They've had a lot of changes. We are only a month or so into the season. We're not that far in. There's still a lot of games left to play. There's a lot of room for them to move this around. But I would say it's just one of those players where you're just not 100% confident in the turnaround. So you do want to maybe shop it a little.
Yeah, makes sense to me. All right. So this guy got the short shifts bump before we even recorded the show, but tell us about your previously cold player.
Yeah, my cold streak. I wanted to talk about someone who was probably flying under the radar as a cold streak because the team has been doing so well to start the season. And I was going to bring up Kyle Connor, but he decided that he needed to pop off against the Rangers tonight. He had 7 shots on goal, 2 goals, and an assist, and he is no longer cold. So I don't really have a question for you, Lewis, because I can't imagine that the Kyle Connor managers want to sell now, but I guess you could still try if you were interested. He did have a period there where he was pointless. He only had 2 assists in those really big games where Winnipeg won 7-4 and 6-2. So I guess there might still be a few people on the fence, but what are your thoughts now that he's already got that short shifts bump?
I mean, he is the guy, capital T, capital G in Winnipeg. You know how I like those players. He's a good Michigan boy too. So, I'm not gonna have a bad word about Kyle Connor here. I guess if you can get something wild for a trade, you maybe can go for it, but I would just stay happy with what he is accomplishing. I think you would, sort of like with Ovi chasing the record, I think you might be sad with yourself if you've got Winnipeg chasing this outstanding season that you're running, and trade him away so that you're not kind of emotionally invested in that adventure. I think he's great. I think you should hang on to him. That left wing spot is pretty shallow this season. Don't overthink this. Enjoy what you got from him.
I like it.
All right. And with that, we have hit the end of our show. Elizabeth, thank you so much for joining us. This was a blast. I had such a lot of fun. Thank you to the folks who are watching on YouTube as well. You can always check it out live. We post on the Patron Discord where you can find us. That Patron Discord you can access by going to keepingkarlsson.com/patron and join the Patreon group. You can play in the Keeping Karlsson Ultimate Patron Fantasy League. You can interact with Brian, Elon, the Short Shifts crew, and hundreds of other talented fantasy managers on our very active Discord server. Please check out GameDayTweets.com. Get all the best info from Twitter without actually having to go onto Twitter. Always a nice bonus. And of course, visit that site and the other great sites we use to research our episodes at Yahoo, Frozen Tools, and Natural Stat Trick. Our intro and outro music was created by Pat Roach. And until we see you next time, play smart and keep your shifts short.
This is a mini meditation guided by Bombas. Repeat after me. I'm comfy. I'm cozy. I have 0 blisters on my toes. And that's because I wear Bombas, the softest socks, underwear, and t-shirts that give back. 1 purchased equals 1 donated. Now go to bombas.com/listen and use code LISTEN for 20% off your first purchase. That's bombas.com/listen and use code LISTEN at checkout.
You're a pro at managing your diabetes, but did you know United Healthcare has plans designed especially for you? United Healthcare Complete Care Plans are made specifically for people with certain chronic conditions like diabetes. See if you qualify, because if you do, you'll be able to access United Healthcare's large provider network for the extra care you may need. If you live in Georgia, you have options. Let their team guide you through those options so you can find the United Healthcare Medicare plan that's right for you. Just go to uhc.com/Medicare.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer? Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. And now, during our Black Friday sale, save 50% on the Sleep Number limited edition smart bed. Plus special financing. Limited time. To find a store near you, visit sleepnumber.com.